Dude, this Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills episode review is like totally intended for an adult audience.
I could have sworn this was a coffee house. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Tattooed Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills episode review. Sadly, we've reached the end of the road for now on these reviews, as Power Rangers Beast Morphers is returning next week. Now, Kaizoku hasn't picked up any extra-dimensional vibrations that suggest the Silver Skull's getting ready to return, so for the moment I think it is safe to put this series back on the shelf. However, we've got one more episode to review before we get to that, so let's take a look at the 18th episode of TTAF, Gordon Cries Wolf. But quickly, before we get started, heroes, I very much appreciate it if you would hit the thumbs up button right down below this video to like the video. You can wait until it's done if you'd like, and when that video is done, you can let me know what you thought of this episode as well as my review of it down in the comments that are also below the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel to see my videos, ring the bell to get your notifications set up, and consider supporting the channel financially on Patreon or Ko-fi. Alright, let's get to the review. Hey look, Molecula! What a crazy place to start an episode, right? Lechner wonders why it's so cold, and Gorganis says that's because he has brought Iceless back. Lechner says that the Sentinels have beaten this one already, but Gorganis points out that Iceless has now been upgraded, which does actually fit what he said he was going to do at the end of the previous episode, and even the idea that sending her to the desert was an experiment. At the school, Gordon asks Laurie to be on his election committee for student council, but she basically blows him off. They do establish that he's asking her because she is the most popular student at the school. She leaves, and Gordon overhears a group of boys near his locker talking about how stuck up the most popular girl in the school is, and a plan for one of them to ask her out and then the others to diss her.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
Gordon closes his locker and walks down past the bathrooms out the basically bottom of the hallway towards the screen. The very next shot is of Gordon walking in from the other side of the hallway at the top of the screen, so to speak, with Drew and Swinton. What is this, another time distortion? No, it's just a ridiculously bad jump cut. Anyway, he tells Drew and Swinton about what he overheard. They can't be sure that the boys were even talking about Laurie, although that does make sense. Drew wonders why Gordon even cares, and he says he doesn't. He was just gleefully sharing the news, and he's got his popcorn ready to go. Drew, realizing what a sleazebag one of the heroes of the show apparently is, decides to appeal to his ambition instead. If Laurie gets dissed and then finds out that Gordon knew about it and didn't do anything to prevent it, well, he can kiss any hopes of getting her support for student council goodbye. Of course, Laurie not only already said no to Gordon, but basically insulted his effort, so his attitude does kind of make sense. Anyway, Laurie walks by, and indeed she has been asked out by a guy named Brad, who Drew says is a total hunk and a great catch. Gordon says that they have to put a stop to that date. For the sake of his campaign, of course. Drew says that Gordon should just tell Laurie what he heard, but he points out that she'll probably feel he's just trying to win her support for student council. So she says that she'll tell Laurie, and he points out that Drew fawned over this guy, so Laurie's just going to think that she's jealous and trying to get him for herself. They, of course, could just have Swinton tell Laurie. However, he didn't seem really excited about getting involved in this anyway. Drew reluctantly agrees to let Gordon do whatever it is Gordon's going to do. Gorganis finishes upgrading Iceless, which is weird because he already said that she had been upgraded, but anyway. Lechner hopes she's not just hot air this time, and she freezes him.
You see what he did there?
At Drew's house, have you ever noticed that we've never seen anybody else's house on this show? Swinton shows Gordon a giant novelty test tube with a bubble pattern in the glass. This apparently is a chemical formula that will make their tattoos flash automatically. They don't really detail it, but the plan seems to be to rub it on themselves, get some of it on Laurie somehow, and then run off like Nimbar is summoning them. I guess then explaining to Laurie what's going on when there's no portal. Brad, Laurie's date, wears a jean jacket just like the ringleader of the Jerks did. However, I think their hairstyles are different, so there's some ambiguity there. Drew brings them some popcorn, and Laurie orders some potato skins. I could have sworn that this was a coffee house. Drew pretends to spill that popcorn, rubbing the chemical on Laurie's arm while she pretends to clean up. The others rub it on their arms, and then Gordon walks over and shows his tattoo to Laurie to get her attention. One detail that I like about this is that their tattoos aren't acting the same as they normally do. There's no beeping sound, and the tattoos aren't flashing, they're just solid on. Laurie apparently excuses her way out of the date, as next we just see Brad walking out the door, and she asks them where the portal is. They explain to her there is no portal, they did this, they're not being summoned, and she goes off on all of them storming out.
And if the dude could take 5 seconds to just explain things rather than stammer out more lies while sweating like James Murdoch at a government hearing.
At the school, the three discuss how Laurie has been avoiding each of them all day. Of course, we're doing a Boy Who Cried Wolf story here, so now their tattoos really flash. They're convinced that Laurie wouldn't listen to them, so they decide to just go and try to handle this without her. Of course, she asked them where the portal was, so if they said, no, listen, it's real this time, there's the portal over there, she'd at least have to go and look at it, right? In the cave, they explain why Laurie isn't coming, and Nimbar gets on all of their cases for basically using their powers for personal gain. It's a valid criticism. One of the things about this team is they seem to take very lightly the fact that they are superheroes fighting to save the world. The one little wobble in this is that Gordon does get to say that he was doing this for Laurie's benefit, but then Nimbar drops his "there's no time," his famous line, and sends them to go fight Isolus. Nice little fight scene here. One thing I like about Isolus is that she actually uses her sword as a sword, not just a novelty sword-shaped blaster. Taurus tries blasting her with his staff, but she zaps it away. The three go to retreat, for some reason Taurus portaling away first. Apollo and Centaur go to do the same, but are then frozen solid by Isolus. So Gordon arrives back in the cave, alone. On Molecula, Lechner asks the relevant question. Why is Isolus just standing there? She's got 2 of the Sentinels. Shatter them and take them out. But Gorganis plays his dumb master villain card, saying they only have 2 of them. The other 2 are going to come save them, and then they can take out all 4.
Villains are stupid.
I know, right?
Nimbar says that he's been paging Laurie and sending portals, but she won't respond or walk through. It occurs to me she can't respond, only walk through, but anyway. Gordon says he's going back to Beverly Hills and will drag Laurie through the portal if he has to.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I'm not going to lie, heroes, this is where things start to get a little bit goofy, and I'm talking about a little bit goofy in terms of this show. Laurie is on a second date with Brad, insisting that nothing will be able to drag her away from that table. So, of course, Gordon comes running in, insisting on talking with her and trying to explain what's going on. Despite, like I said, the fact that her tattoo is not acting like it was then, she still feels like it's the ointment and refuses to listen.
Now you see that evil will always triumph, because good is dumb.
Brad, kind of towing the line between gentlemanly valor and annoying white knighting, gets up and tells Gordon off, even oddly pointing out that he knows Gordon is running for student council. Gordon says that he'll leave, but tells Laurie she is never going to see or hear from him ever again. Nimbar then opens the stockroom portal, and Gordon, just as he said, drags Laurie through it. But in his fervor, Brad follows. Long story short, Laurie realizes that Gordon was telling the truth, their friends need saving, and Brad is in a state of shock. Scorpio and Taurus fight off Isolus, then use carefully tuned blasts to thaw the other 2. They form Nitron, both lose their shields again, and Nitron zaps Isolus away. There are some cutbacks to the cave, but it's just cheerleading. Shockingly, the villain wrap-up is exactly what I was decrying the villains for. Lechner tells Gorganis that he shouldn't have been so greedy. He had 2 of the Sentinels. And Gorganis just sits there and shakes his head because he knows that Lechner is right. Back in the cave, Brad, and by the way, this is the 3rd straight episode that features somebody learning about the Galactic Sentinels and visiting the cave. Anyway, Brad is just psyched that his date is a Galactic Sentinel and he's going to tell everybody and come back and take pictures and know it'll just be fantastic. Laurie pulls a shut up and kiss me and uses the memory fader, which weirdly, for some reason this time is 3 zaps of electricity instead of a single flash, to wipe his memory. By the by, why did she do that in the cave? He could have just looked around and seen everything again. Anyway, they all head back to Beverly Hills via the portal, and that's the end of the episode. Signs now. Episode 18. Gordon Cries Wolf. Pros: believable outrage from Laurie, Brad was a decent side character, and Gordon's desperation. Cons: the entire episode has a shaky premise. Once again, there's not really a plan, and the whole about-to-be-dissed plot has 0 resolution. Probably my least favorite episode thus far. Gordon Cries Wolf gets 2.5 signs out of 5. While the acting in this episode was a mixed bag, and in general I didn't really like this scene for reasons I'll describe in a bit here, Laurie's outrage at believing her fellow Sentinels had ruined her date simply out of spite was genuine. It does make it slightly believable that she would ignore the summons from Nimbar. Her feelings were really hurt. This is admittedly very minor praise, but Brad was a pretty decent side character. As I mentioned, him confronting Gordon was fitting behavior for a courtier, though Laurie basically egging him on into fighting Gordon was out of character for her. His shock and then happiness and surprise at learning Laurie was a Sentinel was also very nice. Gordon's desperation in that same scene, meaning, wow, all 3 of my pros for this episode revolve around that single scene, came across very nicely and genuinely as well. He realized as the episode went on that he really messed up, and sorry as he was, his friends were in danger and he needed Laurie's help. He knew full well that he was the last person she wanted to see, especially at that particular moment, but he did not have a choice in the matter. He had to, as he literally said he was going to, drag her to the fight. But perhaps it's because the basis of this story is a children's fable that the story feels so shaky. When a kid is watching sheep, sure, not believing him about a wolf when he's lied about that before is understandable. You lose maybe 1 or 2 sheep if he's telling the truth. When it's the fate of the entire world, I kind of feel like it warrants Laurie taking a second to double check. She had multiple portals open up around her when she was alone. Did she really think that Swinton's ointment was capable of doing that? And I mean, even if the portals do open but she's still being fooled, what's the harm? She sees Nimbar, he says, "I didn't call you," and she goes back to Beverly Hills and kills Swinton. That's it. Of course, there really was no danger for Laurie to respond to, as Emperor Gorganis once again had no plan. Isolus is a really intimidating monster. Number 1, it's cool that she's female, and number 2, she has a very useful freezing power. So Gorganis has this very intimidating freezing monster, possibly change the weather in an experiment, or attack just to attack. I know that I am clinging to that one time that Emperor Gorganis actually had a plan to blow up a nuclear power plant, but that's the Gorganis that I want. And saving the worst for last, the biggest weakness of this episode is that the plot hinges on a plot point that they never actually resolved. You remember how Gordon overheard that group of guys saying they were planning to diss who was apparently Laurie? Nothing ever comes of that. If I had to guess, there's one of 2 different resolutions that I've come up for on how that may have resolved. One, they were never actually talking about Laurie, they were talking about some other girl, and this happened to some other poor girl off screen. Number two, probably slightly more likely, both times the date with Brad was interrupted before they got to that part of the plan, and the second time Brad ended up on Nimbar's planet in the cave and had his memory erased and just forgot that part of the plan. Either way, it seemed like the plot was rushed towards the end and it's just a point that they forgot to resolve. Yeah, overall, this was a pretty shaky one. The premise was very simple, again, a children's fable, but that led to overcomplication in its writing. It was just another episode of TTAF where the heroes do bad things to each other for stupid reasons, the Sentinel action only forced by a villain that does not have a plan. I'm sad to say this show seems to be trending downward. And alright, like I said, that is going to put a hold on Tattoo Teenage Alien Fighters episode reviews for the time being. We're back next week with Power Rangers Beast Morphers 2.0. Now, in rehearsals, Kaizoku was telling me that we were having some technical issues with the next time segment, but we're going to try to get it out to you. So, here's a peek at the first episode of Power Rangers Beast Morphers 2.0, Believe It or Not. Believe it or not. Well, I know we surf from Caesars near Roy, but it was the first episode of Power Rangers Beast Morphers. Here's a peek at the 19th episode of Tattoo Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills, The Cover-Up. Dude! Emperor Gorganis sends Octodroid to capture Apollo, and now the others have to find a way to rescue him while trying to cover up where Swinton is to his father. I sure hope that worked. I guess I won't find out until the video's edited. Anyway, now that the video is done, you can let me know what you thought of this episode as well as my review of it right down below. Until next time, heroes, hand switch. May the power portals, said it right this time, protect you. However, yeah, that went real bad. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers situation. If Laurie gets dissed and then finds out that Gordon knew about it but did nothing to prevent it, he can kiss her hopes. If they don't really detail this, but the plan seems to be to rub some of them on its. Brad, Laurie's date, wears a jean jacket, but nice little fight scene thing. As a sword, and not just a novelty short sword. So, here's a first look at the... Here's a peek at the